Shalom Makayam, Shalom, Rakatiha, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Rakah, Kwadash, Tuwada, Amen. Alright, I'm just going to go over some iconoclasm stuff that's been going on, my brothers have been talking about recently. I'm just going to bring up some history information about the different nations of people that lived in the ancient world, what we know like the biblical times, before that, during the times of the Romans, the Greeks and so forth and that. So I thought I'm going to start here. So we're reading out of the, so you can see it's the Zonovan's Bible Dictionary, alright? This is a different recording I'm going to do today, alright? So I'm on the camera today, so I'm not sure how long the battery's going to last, but let's hope it lasts us at least 45 minutes, because it'll take us about 45 minutes to go through this. Right, so as you can see here, it says, we're on page, what page are we on? We're on page 330 of the Zonovan's Bible Dictionary. So, as you can see quite clearly here, see where it says Ham? It says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Alright? So that's who Ham was, right? It's the one that, the one that speaks in the Bible that says his descendancy, when his father lay drunken, brought a curse upon Canaan, right? Which is in the scriptures. Yeah, in Genesis 9, verse 20, 27, like it tells you there. Alright? So, it's just to show you, alright, who Ham is. Ham was one of Noah's sons. But he is not, just like it says there, he became the progenitor of the dark races, right? Of the really dark races, but not, as it says there, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, right? So I thought I'd start there, and then I'm going to bring you to another book here. So I'm looking at this is a book here, you can see it. It's called The Image of the Black in Western Art, From the Pharaohs to the Fall of the Roman Empire. Alright, this book is edited by David Binham and Henry Louis Gates Jr. Okay, alright, this is the book I'm reading from right now. Right, this is edition, as you can see, new edition 1. Alright, The Image of the Black and Western Art, From the Pharaohs to the Fall of the Roman Empire. So I've gone through the whole book, but I'm specifically focusing on chapter 3. Now, chapter 3 is called Iconographical Evidence of the Black Populations in Greco-Roman Antiquity, as you can see, all right? Frank M. Snowden, Jr., all right? So, I've highlighted some pages out here, and I'm going to start here. It says, in general, 2 Negro types have been the subject of archaeological studies. It says the so-called proper, true and pure African Negro who possesses Negroid characteristics in the most marked form, and another type frequently designated as Neolithic. Okay? Now, what they would be calling the African, those would be the Hamites, right? Which we showed you in there, who's the progenitor of the dark races, right? The Neolithics are what you would know as the Israelites, the Negroes, the ones that are not considered, not Africans, that are not Hamites. Those are the Neolithic people, okay? If you look that up, let me quickly, sorry people, 1 second. So, those are the Neolithics, alright? So, I'm going to, over here, it says, E.A. Houghton has pointed out that kinky or frizzly hair ordinarily pairs in racial types in where there is at least a generous admixture of the Negro or Negrito, alright? J.H. Lewis has noted that no race other than the Negro, right, or one intermixed therewith has woolly or kinky hair as a staple feature. Okay, so one of the things we know about that when he's saying that there is that we know our Lord and Savior is described with woolly hair. Kinky he's described with woolly hair. All right. I left the scriptures. 1 second, people. Sorry. Right. So before I even go on through there, just to show you, when he's speaking of the Negro here, he's talking about the Negro that we spoke about in Zonovan's Bible Dictionary. All right. When they speak about the African Negro, the pure African Negro, those are your Hamites. So when we go back to the Zonovan's Bible Dictionary, and it says, and where it says Ham, it says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, which are your Africans, your Hamites, but not, it says there quite clearly, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, right? So keep that in mind when we're going to go through this book, right? Keep that in mind, what you've just seen there. Okay, so when he says here, it says, J.H. Lewis has noted that no race other than a Negro or one intermixed therewith has woolly or kinky hair as a stable feature. All right. So what does our Lord? What does it say when we go to the Book of Revelations? All right. I just thought I might just quickly get this out of the way before I go through. And he says here, the Book of Revelations. So we're in the Book of Revelations. Yeah, the Book of Revelations. Reading from the KJV, King James Version, Holy Scriptures. Yeah. That's what it is, as you can see. I'll show you it here again. Holy Bible, 611 version. Right? This is it, KJV. This is what we're reading from. So, we're going to read it out here. I've got it marked out here. Revelations chapter 1, verse 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps. Yeah? With a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Yeah? Like wool. Right? As white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire. Because as we always told you, our Lord and Savior Yahushua drank wine. That's why his eyes were red. Alright? And his feet were like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, which means he was a dark-skinned man, dark-skinned Negro. And his voice as the sound of many waters, right? Because when he spoke, his voice carried very far when he spoke. Didn't need no megaphone to speak to the thousands and thousands of people that he had in front of him. All right? So, he said his head is white like wool. And then if we go to, we need to go to, I believe it's Daniel's chapter 7. We start at Daniel's chapter 7 here. It says, so we're in Daniel's, where are we? See what it says there? Chapter 7, the book of Daniel's, right? We come down to verse 9, and it says, and I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head, listen carefully, like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. All right? So that's talking about the Most High. The Most High. Yahweh's Father is showing you. His head is just like how his son's head is. Like wool. Pure wool. Right? And I think it's in Daniel's 10. Yeah, it's Daniel's 10. So we're in Daniel's chapter 10. Verse 7, it says, and I, Daniel, saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, right? That so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in corruption. And if we go up, and it says here, it says verse 5, so we're in Daniel chapter 10 verse 5. It says, then I lifted up my eyes, and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose lions were girded with fine gold as upas, right? His body was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in colour to polished brass, right? And we know brass is what? It's of a dark brown hue, right? Dark brown colour. And the voice of his words were like the voice of a multitude, all right? So that's Daniel's vision of Yahushua, the Son of the Most High. This is Daniel's vision of the Most High. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like the pure wool. Pure wool. So when we go to Revelation 13, once again, quickly go back there again. Oops, sorry. Revelation chapter 1 verse 13. And it says, and in the midst of the seven candlesticks, this is John the Revelator's vision, right? One like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. He had his head and his hairs were white like wool, just like how his father's head is wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet were like unto fine brass, as they burn in a furnace, and his voice has the sound of many waters. So, John the Revelator's vision is the exact same vision that Daniel saw. Daniel saw of the Father, and that Daniel saw of Yahushua the Son. Just so you understand that. So when we're reading this book here, just to show you here, we're going to show you some stuff here anyway. It says here, John H. Lewis has noted that no race other than a Negro or one intermixed therewith has woolly or kinky hair as a stable feature. None. Right? So we're going to go through, I've marked out some pages in here that we're going to go through that I want you to see. Alright? So when it says here, it says a pure African Negro who possessed Negroid characteristics in the most marked form, and another type frequently designated as the Neolithics, right? The Neolithics, so the African Negroes, obviously them talking about the Negro, not the Hamite, but the actual Negro. The Neolithics are what you would call the African Negroes. So if I go, I'll quickly show you here. Neolithic. Have I spelled that right? N-I-L, sorry. Come on, you. As you can see here, Neolithic, referring to the River Nile or the Blue Nile region of Africa, donating or belonging to a family of languages spoken in Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya and Tanzania. The Western group includes the Leo or Dinka. The Eastern group includes the Masi and the Turkana. Okay? So, those are who the Neolithics are, alright? So, and it's funny when you read it says the pure African Negro who possesses Negroid characteristics. The actual Negroid and who is talking about, the actual Negroes the actual characteristics of the Negroes that they're talking about are the Israelites, the Shemites, the actual Negroes. That's why it says that's why it says that in general, two Negroid types have been the subject of archaeological studies. The so-called proper or true or pure African Negro, your Hamites, who possesses Negroid characteristics. Those are the Negroes, the other nation of black people, in the most marked form. And another type frequently designated as the Neolithics. Those are the ones that I just showed you there, right? That live along the delta. So, the point I'm trying to get to here is that when the archaeologists look at all of the different things to do with the nations that lived in the ancient world, they know and understand that there are different nations of what we call so-called black people, right? Not all black people are Africans, come from the land of Ham. So, just so you can see, this is from, it says, Negroid profile carved in shell from Iois Iaphoris, right? Early 2nd millennium BC, right? And here it says, when under what circumstances were Negroes first depicted in European art? From what parts of Africa did they come? Or how did the Greeks and Romans come in contact with them? To what extent does iconography confirm and complement what we learn from written sources about the physical characteristics of Ethiopians, who would be Hamites, about racial mixture, about the role of the Negro, which would be your Israelites, other nations, in Greco-Roman society? It is on points such as these that our archaeological evidence provides an indispensable commentary, right? This is what we're going to go through. So, as you can see, these are different artifacts from the ancient world, all right? Here's a painting here from the ancient world. As you can see, these are different artifacts from the ancient world. All right. So, what you were looking at over there was 145, which is the large picture. It says the captain of the blacks fresco, right, from the late Manoah, which is this one here. That's the captain of the black fresco. All right, and it says 146, which is, this is 146. This is another fresco, as you can see. And it says here, detail of a procession, Negro clad in lion cloth, right? That's an Israelite you're looking at there. From Pylos, palace of Nestor, second half of the 8th century BC, all right? It says here, it says, the Negroes, in Lang's opinion, had come to the mainland under Manoah auspices. The scene can be explained in one or two ways. Either the procession represented tribute bearers, including white subjects from the uncivilized interior, right? Because those were the uncivilized, right? The so-called white man, just like it says there, from the white subjects from the uncivilized interior, right? And blacks from beyond the seas, or the scenes were offertory, and as suggested by the presence of black foreigners and white natives, represented some kind of syncretism in the rite. The presence of blacks at Pylos, together with the fact that the Aatiojo is mentioned several times in Pylos tablets, points to the knowledge of blacks earlier than their more frequent appearance in Greek art from the late 7th century BC onward. All right? So, I'm going to go through here. As you can see, these are more from the Greco-Roman times. What you're looking at there. Here again, from the Greco-Roman times, what you're looking at here. Down here it says, cast of scarabs with heads of blacks from Nucaratis, 6th century BC. All right, these are all during the Greco-Roman empires. Perfume vase of juxtaposing a head of a bearded barbarian and a head of a Negro. All right, so you've got a head of a bearded barbarian and a head of a Negro. All right, because the barbarians were another black nation and the Negroes were a separate black nation. That's what you're seeing right there. As you can see here, you see this vase here you're looking at? I don't know if the light is interfering. Let me just see. I'll turn the light off. Kind of like the light is kind of interfering. I've got some daylight, it'll be alright. So as you can see here, in the vase, and read here, it says Hydra scenes from Hercules fighting against the Egyptians, right? So that's Hercules fighting against the Egyptians. You know Hercules you see when they make those movies about Hercules? It says Hercules slaying Busiris priests, alright? And then it says side B of the vase is soldiers coming to the aid of Busiris, right? From it comes from Italy. This is it's in Necropolis in Italy, alright? So look at Hercules. Can you see? Maybe you can see that clearly. Hercules is a black man. That's the man in the middle, Hercules. Put my finger on him. That's Hercules there, fighting the Egyptians. Alright? And then that's another vase, as you can see. Yeah, and these are Egyptians that are on that vase. Right? So it says here, it says, only the Negro of the pronounced type was used as a model Attic artist in the 6th century. From the outset, the Negro's skin colour, thick lips, broad nose, and especially his woolly hair fascinated the artists, who employed a variety of techniques to represent a type of hair so different from their own. There are several vases in the form of Negro heads from the late 6th century. A good example is a mug in Boston, which is careful rendering of the physical traits of a man whose wrinkles and crow feet betray his age. All right? So we're getting, well, basically what we're trying to get to understand here is that there was plenty Negroes that lived all throughout the Greek and Roman Empire. All right? All throughout there, all throughout the provinces that they controlled and all throughout their towns, right? So here, it says here, group of Nubian mercenaries, detail of military parade. So these are Africans, the Nubians, right? Of the 18th dynasty. All right? That's what you're looking at there. And you got here, these are, as it says there, Aribalos in the form of the head of a Negro, right? From Eritrea. Right, 6th century BC. And then the other one is the Attic Catharos in the form of a head of an elderly man, 2nd half of the 6th century BC. All right. So here we got Memnon, right? Remember Memnon is what they, if you ever see the film Troy and you saw Memnon, King Memnon that came with Achilles came to attack Troy to bring back Helen. All of those people that those Greeks were writing about were black people. They were not white people that you see in those movies. When Homer was writing a story about Troy, right? Because a lot of it is mythology, basically, in that. But his books were not based on no white people, no white Greeks, no Edomite nations. They were based on black kings and queens. All right, this is him here. This is King Memnon, what you're looking at here on this vase. I'm going to show you quite clearly. Exichias, Amphora, Memnon, and an Ethiopian warrior. All right, so it says 155. As you can see, we're looking at 155 here. That's King Memnon fighting against with an Egyptian warrior. If we come down here, it says here, it says Exichias Amphoria, detail, right? It says Memnon and 2 Ethiopian warriors, all right? This was done around 550 to 525 BC on a terracotta, all right? It's in the London British Museum, right? Can you see? King Memnon is a black man. So when you're watching that movie Troy and they're depicting Memnon, Achilles, Helen, Troy, Paris as white people, Edomites, that's another complete lie. When Homer wrote the story, the whole thing was based on black king, queen, princesses, and so forth. They were not based on anything named Edomites or so-called white people, all right? That's all to do with modern day, what we know as white supremacy, all right? Just so you understand that, right? As you look over here, as you can see, and we go down, let's read what it says. It says, warrior of African origin, all right? Centered medallion of red-figured cup from Pagio. This is around 510 to 500 BC. This is in the Louvre Museum in Paris, right? And that's Memnon, King Memnon, to the left there, dealing with the African warrior, all right? None of these people were based on white people, Edomites, Greeks, or whatever. All right, and I can believe, I don't know, but I can believe that Homer, Herodotus, Diculus, the other writer, all of these guys I can believe were Jakes. I truly can believe that. All right, but as you can see there, more sculptures. That's a black woman with a white woman on the same, there's a smaller one of it, vast there. Alright, as you can see, it says it's a Catharos in the form of a conjured heads of a white woman and a Negro. Alright? Here, as you can see, it says the North African terminals of caravan route suggested to Evans another possible route by which Negroes had reached Crete. Right? Crete is one of the islands of Greece. It says similarly, Carthage may have brought blacks to Sicily. Right? As you know, the Sicilians are Jakes. They're niggers, for lack of a better word, right? It says excavations in the island have yielded 3 terracotta heads realistically portrayed to be dated towards the end of the 6th and the beginning of the 5th century BC. All right. So just so you understand, Jakes have been up in Sicily from the 6th century BC. All right. These are the terracotta heads that they found. All right. It says over here. It says Sicily, proximately to North Africa, and the presence of Negroes among the Carthagins, as you know, Hannibal the Great was a Carthagin, who operated in the island, may explain the appearance of blacks in early Sicilian art, right? Because they was all up in that place, all up in Sicily, living amongst them. And then it was conquered by Hannibal the Great from the Carthaginian Empire before he made his way into the mainland Italy and was conquering parts of South Italy and marching on his way towards Rome. And remember, they were talking about the Hannibal that took the elephants over the Alps, all right? And the only reason he turned back, why? Because he got a message to say his homeland was under attack by Roman legions. So that's why Hannibal turned back. He was at the door at Rome to take down Rome. He was at the door of the Roman Empire before he turned back. And they always like to depict Hannibal, right, as some white Caucasian Edomite. Hannibal was a Negro. Just like it says there, Sicily, proximity to North Africa, and the presence of the Negroes among the Carthagins who operated in the island may explain the appearance of blacks in early Sicilian art, because that's who they were. These were the Negroes. Because remember, where's Carthage? Carthage is North Africa. What we know today as Libya, Tunisia, Algeria. Right, that's Carthage. All right. It says here. It says Negroes were in Sicily in the early 5th century. For according to the Stragmata, very black auxiliaries were among the Carthaginian prisoners captured by Gelon of Syracuse in 480 BC. All right, so they were up in Sicily, like I said, from between the 4th and 5th century. They was up in Sicily. All right, this is another vase. As you can see, and it says here, these are Attic alabasters of Ethiopian warriors, 5th century BC. Okay, these are other icons to do it around that time, just so you can see. This is what's her name? Andromeda. It says here, personification of Ethiopia, detail of the scene from Andromeda of the Euryphites. So you can see. These are masks of Negroes. All during the Greco-Roman times. Just so you can see, they were up in all those places. Here, we've got Negro heads on Greek coins. All right, so it says here, look, we're going to read it. It says here, it says, Negro's victory driving Hercules' chariot detailed on a onyx. Right, so that's it here. With the angel wings. So it says here, it says the fact that Negroes appear on Greek coinage of important cities, in one instance of the reverse of the Athenian tribal in Berlin with a helmeted goddess on the obverse, and on the obverse of a small silver coin from Delphi, right, has given rise to a number of interpretations, right? So it says, in the absence of more abundant evidence, it is difficult to establish certain identification in such matters. Of the several explanations advanced, however, the view that the Negro was Delphos, the eponym of Delphi, is to me the most convincing. The father of Delphos was Apollo in one version and Poseidon in another. All variants of the mother's name except one, Thea, are derivatives of the words meaning black. Melatho, Melania, Melanis, and Calenio, right? So Apollo, as we know, Delphos, all of these people were meant to be black people. They were not white Caucasians, right? As you can see here, another Greek vase here, depicting them, right? These are the coins. Oops. These are the coins. So you can see, these are the Greek coins with black heads on them. You see? Negroes on the Greek coins. That's like seeing a Negro on the British pound. £10 or £5. These are Negroes. Right? All Greek coins these are. Can you see? Negroes on Greek coins. Trying to make it like we were some just living in the friggin' bushes and all that bullshit. It says tribal averse helmeted goddess, reverse head of a Negro from Athens. Right? It's a silver coin, that one is, right? From 502, see? 502 BC. And then it says coins observe head of Negro from Delphi. 490 to 479 BC. So those are those two here, from 490 to 479 BC. All right, those are those two coins there. The first one that we read, where it says 502 BC, 186 to 187, are those two coins there. All right, and then we come down. It says coins observe head of Negro from Delphi century, silver from the 5th century BC. Sorry. So that's 190, 91, 92. So these ones are from the 5th century BC. These are Greek coins with Negro heads. These are Israelites, man, up in those places. Right? And then 193 says, Cantharos conjured heads of Hercules and a Negro. Right? 5th century BC. That's over here. All right. I'm going to keep this moving. We've got a good bit to cover, but I don't want to. That's a trumpeter. See? It's a Negro trumpet. Just look at it. On his shield. On his shield. That's a Greek. That's an actual Greek carrying a shield with the Negro trumpeter on it. We were up in all those places. These are different artifacts from the Hellenistic times. Over here again, from the Hellenistic times. As you can see, it says a head of a woman, late 5th century BC. Right, mounted head in a ring. That's that one there. That's the mounted head of a Negro woman in a ring. Right. And then you've got the pendant in the form of a Negro head. That's the pendant in the form of the Negro head. No, sorry, that's the pendant in the form of the Negro head. And then 204, mask of a Negro. So that's a mask of a Negro. For what they were using for their parties. Now that they have their parties and put their mask on sometimes, right? Just so you can see. These are more artifacts from the Hellenistic times. These are more. These are during the Hellenistic times. You know where they were saying, oh, the Gentile Israelites, the ones that were Hellenized? A lot of this, what you're looking at, are Hellenized Israelites that were known as Negroes. So quickly jump to. There's another coin, set of coins. You got here. That's 231. That is young black groom steadying a horse statue base from Athens, 4th century BC, early 3rd century BC. All right, that's in the Athens National Museum. All right, that's him there. If you want to see him more close up, that's the Negro boy there. It's the same boy you're looking at in the top corner there. As you can see here, hunting. This is the fresco painting, right? Showing them hunting, right? It says here, it says 234. It says, landscape of the Upper Nile with 2 black hunters. Detail of the mosaic in the Nile flood. Right? So it says there, look, Hellenistic period. Beginning with the earliest encounters in Egypt and in Greece, the Negro, whether warrior, slave, or adventurer, fascinated Greeks artists, as we have seen. The popularity of the Negro in Hellenistic studios, therefore, is what would be expected of artists drawn to realistic studies of non-Greeks and interested in the un-Greekness of foreign types. It says the wide variety of physical features in blacks, the pure, the Neolithic, and various graduations of black-white mixture provided a range of opportunities for the employment of artistic skill. The Greeks were aware of the subtle changes from white to black in pigmentation and physical features of peoples as one proceeded south along the Nile. All right, so this wasn't nothing new to them. They were like, oh, this wasn't. Nothing back then was based on racism. What it is now, nothing back then. Everything back then was based on class. It says the extensive gallery of the Negro portraits, some realistic, others more freely handled, by Hellenistic craftsmen who worked in marble or more commonly in bronze or terracotta, would seem to indicate that blacks constituted a much larger element in the population of the Hellenistic world than has been generally realized. Let's read that again to you, right? It says, the extensive gallery of Negro portraits, some realistic, others more freely handled, by Hellenistic craftsmen who worked in marble or more commonly in bronze or terracotta, would seem to indicate that blacks constituted a much larger element in the population of the Hellenistic world than has been generally realized. All right? Because when you watch these ancient movies to do with the Hellenistic times and that, you wouldn't think black people existed, Taras, unless they went into the interiors of Africa. All right? This is the lies that this white supremacist world gives you. It says, many studies of the Negro, all right? Remember what I said, the Negroes are the Israelites, right? They're not the Africans, they're the Israelites, all right? It says, many studies of the Negroes in Hellenistic art have concentrated on specialized aspects, such as the squatting or crouch figure or on methods of treating the hair. But a comparative view of the representation of blacks in the period is lacking, of course. Indeed, the failure to see the total picture was obscured the frequency with which the Negro was represented and the diversity of the physical types, because there was difference, right, with the artists were acquainted, all right? And these are some of their, once again, as you can see, those are head of a Negro, early 3rd century BC, all right? Fragment of a balisarium in the form of a Negro head, late 3rd century to 2nd century BC. Mask of a Negro from Sicily, 3rd century to 2nd century BC, all right? That's the mask over there. As you can see, there's more here. These are all during the Hellenistic times. Look, Lamp in the form of a Negro head from Athens, Agora. Agora means market. 2nd century BC. All right. Athens, Agora excavations. Right. Perfume-based head of adolescents of Neolithic types. All right. The Neolithic types are the ones that we said which are the actual Africans. The Neolithic types are the Africans. Right. As you can see, just look at the way how they do their hair. Those are your actual Hamites. These are the Neolithic types what you're looking at here. That's the vast of the Neolithic types. Right? We'll look again here so you can see. Neolithic relating to the River Nile or the Nile region of Africa, denoting or belonging to the family of languages spoken in Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania. The Western group includes Leo and Dinka. The Eastern group includes Masi and Turkana. All right? Those are the Neolithics, right? Those are your Hamites, the Neolithics, right? Those are not Negroes. These are your Hamites, right? That's why when it says here, perfume vase head of an adolescent Neolithic type, right? 100 BC. And then it says Balisarium head of an adolescent Neolithic type 3rd or 2nd century BC, right? Those are these here. These are the Neolithic types. Those are what you call your Africans. All right, these are not your Negroes, these are your Hamites. All right, so let's keep going. I've marked out a few more pages. As you can see, just want to show you some more here. As you can see, I'll read it here. Lagonian decorated with a couple embracing from Cairo, Hellenistic period, terracotta. Incense shovel with a Negro head attached to a handle, Hellenistic period, 3rd century BC. Head of a Negro man, 3/4 front view from Southern Asia Minor. There, see it there? Ptolemaic period, which is your Hellenistic period, that's from the Ptolemies, late 2nd century BC. So this is what they're referring to here. These are what they're referring to, what you see here. And here, these are the vases from the Hellenistic period, right? Of the Negroes. As you can see, these are the Negro heads on the vase, right? And on the shovel, as you can see, that's the Negro head. And that's what it's speaking of here when it says incense shovel with a Negro head attached to a handle, Hellenistic period, 3rd century BC. That's what it's referring to. Head of a Negro man, 3/4 front view. Alright, so that's another one. Look, these are from the Hellenistic period. Alright, these are your Negroes that lived all throughout the Ptolemaic Empire. Alright, and when it says here, head of a Negro man, 3/4 front view, from Southern Asia Minor, Ptolemaic period, late 2nd century BC. Right, that's 251. 251 is this brother here. See it says here? See it says here 251? That's what it's talking about here. From the right? And the Ptolemies were the ones that continued, along with the solutions, the Hellenistic, or created the Hellenistic Empire that came from the time of Alexander the Great. Alright, that was one of Alexander the Great's 4 generals. Alright? See? Statue of a young musician from Chalon-sur-Saône, Hellenistic period. Alright? Bronze. Alright, see the statue here? Negro man. Another Negro. It's another Israelite, just so you know. Alright? But over here, that's him from the back. This is the statue it's referring to. Alright? It says here, statue of a young Negro, perhaps a musician, Hellenistic period, right? Hasn't given the exact date, but this is it here. From the Hellenistic period. Statue of the young man from the Hellenistic period. This is the head. So you can see. Alright. It says, statue fragment adolescent with Negroid features recovered from the sea near the Bodrum, 2nd or 1st century BC. Alright. statue of a juggler from Thebes, Hellenistic period. All right, terracotta. All right, so this is one of the statues. And this is the one, the juggler. So you can see the one to your right is your juggler, and the other one's the other statue they found at the bottom of the sea from the Hellenistic period, right? These are your Negroes, right? Living the life of Riley. Just so you can see. Negroes seated writing. Yeah. So, we'll read out what it says here. It's a statue of a Negro seated writing on a scroll from South Italy. Alright? That's him here. That's your Negro writing on the scroll. Not like slavery, right? When the white man took us into slavery, right? And he wasn't allowed to learn how to read or write. But to your left is a statue of the Negro writing on a scroll. Alright? And that's what we Israelites wrote on scrolls. Okay? It's a statue of a seated Ethiopian, an imitation of, what's it say? Spiniaro, right? And this is when you know you're dealing with Africans. It will say Ethiopians, or it will say Neolithic. That's when you know you're dealing with Africans. And when it's Negroes, you're dealing with the other nations, all right? You're dealing with Israelites, sorry. When it says Neolithic, or it will mention the other nations, you're dealing with Hamites, Africans. It says here, a roughly contemporary testimony on the type of black which Platus may have had in mind is provided by the physical traits of a Negro appearing on the obverse with an elephant on the reverse of a 3rd century coinage. Until recently, these coins have usually been related to Hannibal's elephants and the impression made by the Carthaginian general's Negro mahouts upon the population of northern Italy. Well, of course. So these are the coins that they're talking about, with the elephant on one side, because that's what the Carthaginian Empire used. That was part of their army, right? See the Negro head on one side, and the elephant would be the other side of the coin. There you go there, just so you can see. This is a bigger picture of the Negro coin from the Carthaginian Empire. Like you can be printing coins with money of people that are not of that nation. It says here, Etruscan coins, obverse, head of a black manhood, reverse elephant in 3rd century BC, statue of a jockey from Cape Artisan, late 3rd century, 2 statues of captives, late 1st century. All right, so these are your captives here. That's one statue of the captive. That's a Negro captive. There's another statue of a captive. And this is a jockey. The white man going like say, "Him the first man. Him the real jockey." We are the jockeys. We brought this shit to them and to the Arabs. That's a Negro jockey, you know, riding his horse. See, it says here, statue of a jockey from Cape Artisan, late 3rd century BC. All right. We're going to keep going. Shouldn't be too much longer, people. It says, among the troops of Septimius Severus, all right, which was the Roman general and emperor, in Britain, for example, the historian Augustus notes the presence of an Ethiopian soldier. A numerous murmuran was stationed at the 3rd century garrison at Ababa. The emperor, therefore, may well have recruited other Ethiopians among his auxiliaries. The presence of a seemingly Negroid soldiers with conical caps on the ark of Septimius Severus in the Roman Forum. All right. So you've got these are statues of. So over here it says, statue of a warrior carrying a double-edged axe. That's him there, carrying a double-edged axe. Statue of a warrior carrying an axe and a shield from Egypt, Roman period. So that will be this one here, carrying axe and a shield during the Roman times, because there was enough Israelites and other black nations that were part of the Roman armies, you know, especially after their countries were conquered by them. And it says bust of an Ethiopian, 1st century AD. And this is what I like about this book. It makes clear when it's talking about an African, you know, because it will say Ethiopian, Cushites. They are the Cushites, Ethiops, right? Or it will say Neolithic. So it says here, this is it here. This is a sarcophagus, a scarabaeus fragment. Barbarians before a Roman general surrounded by soldiers first half of the 3rd century AD. Alright? Jump that. It says here, head of a woman representing Libya from the vicinity of Rome. Alright, then it says statue. Second one is a statue of an allegory of African from Lower Egypt. And then the third one, it says a vase in the form of a Negro head from Pompeii, 1st century AD. Alright, so that's the vase in the form of a Negro head to your right. The other one is a statue. Oh, the battery's going low, boy. I don't want to lose all of this. So it's got one last part that I really wanted to get to, people. This is just more so you can see. So you can see more. These are more from the Hellenistic period. Here again, this is a, you know what that is? That's a gladiator. These are the gladiators. Look at that. It says statue of gladiator from Egypt, Roman period. All right, and the other one's a statue of a Negro carrying a ram. All right. If the one if he was getting to the Passover Taras, the one that's carrying the ram. That's the Negro carrying the ram to your right, and that's the gladiator. Gladiator to your left, Negro to your right. Just so you can see. More of these are from the Hellenistic times. So we're going to finish up on here. Right? So I wanted to read this up before the battery was dead. It says, when we see the ancient graphic and plastic arts and crafts bears and what we gather from the writers of antiquity which have come down to us, distinctions were made between slave and free, between Greeks and barbarians. The Greeks and Romans, however, attached no special stigma to colour. I've always told you this. This is a 19th century phenomenon. White supremacy and racism. This never existed in the ancient world. Never. It's all about class. Free, slave. Right? Family line. Anyway, let's continue reading. It says, the Greeks and Romans, however, attached no special stigma to colour and developed no special theory of darker peoples, darker peoples, like other foreigners. Blacks could overcome the barbarians' obstacle if they were inclined to do so. Though a man came from a faraway Scythian or distant Ethiopia, though a man was as physically different from the Greek or Roman as the blackest Ethiopian or the blondest Scythian, such distinctions were unimportant to the Greeks and Romans. That's a modern day 19th century thing, right? Happened during slavery, racism. During the 18th century, 19th century, beginning around 1801. It is intrinsic merit, says Menander, that counts. Similarly, the early church embraced both Scythian and Ethiopian. It was the Ethiopian, the blackest and remotest of men, who was selected as an important symbol of early Christianity missions. By Ethiopians, declared Augustine, all nations were signified. The Greco-Roman artistic picture, as we have seen, is consistent with the brief statement given above of certain views in classical and early ancient literature. The frequency with which the Negro was portrayed, especially when taken in relation to classical literature, justifies a resentment of the number of Negroes in the population of the ancient world. Right? It says the literary evidence also suggests that the Negroes of the artists and craftsmen were inspired by the acquaintance with blacks in their midst more often than has been realized. A wide range of types and varying degrees of core. I think that's going to say, where are we? Of Caucaside admixture is observable from the middle to the 5th century BC onwards. Most Ethiopians may have looked like a Philostratus, but not to all Greeks and Roman artists. Similarly, Negroes, like I said, it always distinguishes between Ethiopians, which are Africans, and Negroes. It says, similarly, Negroes may look alike to those critics who have regarded most Negroes in Greek and Roman art as repetitions of a few typical blacks, but such an opinion overlooks the many individualized Negroes we have seen. Even in the Roman period, artists working in Hellenistic traditions were not always blind to the interesting anthropological characteristics of Negroes whom they encountered. Motifs were at times repeated, but the freshness and vitality of the Negroes portrayed often suggested that the models were contemporaries of the artists. Finally, what about attitudes of the artists themselves towards the Negroes who observed as their models? And although some scholars, have allowed the classical works to speak for themselves, others have not, but instead have made observations such as following the ugliness of the Negro seems to have appealed alike to a sculptor, engraver and painter. As a rule, the Negro is most observably drawn in Greek vases. Menmon is represented as white because of the Greeks' aversion to Negroid features. The Negroes on the panegyristic file are almost caricatures. The Negro Spinanerio is an outright instance of the comic, and the dance movement executed by a Negro is a pose no white person would think of assuming. Absolutely. An examination of the ancient records we have seen does not provide support for the opinion just cited. All right? It says aesthetic considerations, which means talking about the beautiful, the artistic beauty of someone. When it says aesthetic considerations, often provide an overriding motivation for the selection of the Negroes. The word aesthetic means beauty, something beautiful. All right. H. Emsker, aesthetic emphasizes, deserves in my judgment, a wider application and should not be limited to the Greek vases he had in mind when he wrote. In some cases, a belief in the supposed apotropic charm of Negroes may have been a factor, but some modern art critics have seen apotropic attributes, grotesque, or caricatures where none existed. There is no reason, however, to conclude that those classical artists who depicted blacks in comics and satirical scenes were motivated by colour prejudice. Absolutely. Whites of many races appeared in comic and satirical scenes. Why should Negroes have been excluded? If Negroes had been depicted only as caricatures or grotesques, or if satirical scenes were the rule and not the exception, there might be some justification for the pejorative interpretations of the Negro in classical arts as cited above, which are apparently influenced by the animosities and colour antipathy of some modern societies. As I said to you, racism is a modern thing, mate. But this was not the case. As in classical literature, there is in ancient art no evidence which demonstrates that there was a stereotyped concept of the Negro as ugly, apotropic, which means evil or bad, or comic. On the contrary, the varied and often sympathetic treatment he received over many centuries and in the wide variety of the media and art forms suggests strongly not only that classical artists chose the Negro as a subject for many of the same reasons as they represented individuals of various other races, but also that they were often motivated in the choice by aesthetic, which means beauty. Right? That's what that word means. Look it up. As motivated in this choice by aesthetic considerations. The approach of Greek and Roman artists in their rendering of the black was evidently in the spirit of those classical authors whose comments on the Ethiopian at home or abroad attach no great importance to the colour of a man's skin. Because racism did not exist in the ancient world. Racism is a modern day phenomenon. 200 years ago that come from racism. Came about in the 19th century. That's 1801 from onwards, right? During slavery. This is how the white man justified their wickedness that they did to us to enslave us in the Americas and the West Indies, right? And how they justify their wickedness that they continue to do to work today, which is, they call it American imperialism. Before it was the British Empire. It's all based on white supremacy. Racism is a modern day thing. Didn't exist back then. Back then, it was about class. Free man, slave man. If you were free or slave man, class, family, bloodline, and so forth. All right? So just so you can see quite clearly that Negroes lived all throughout, which were Israelites, and as well as Africans, Ethiopians, all throughout the Roman, Greek empires during the times of their rulership, right? Until the time when the Israelites took over and became the emperors of the Roman Empire around the time of Commodus, all right? When they became the first emperors of the Roman Empire. Color did not play no part during the Roman Empire time back then in the ancient world, nor during the Greek Empire, nor during the Persians and the Medes, nor during the Babylonian. It is a modern day white man disease. All right, just so people can see that. So on that note, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai.